Hi everyone, my name is Alyssa Ebley. I'm a visual artist and I work in the Public Programs Department here at the Met, and we would like to welcome you to the Still Life edition of our virtual drop-in drawing. While the Met is closed, we're bringing the museum to you with a series of drawing exercises meant to challenge and grow your creative skills. And today we will be focusing on showing you how to create a still life with things you have at home, and then we'll sketch the tableau that we've made. Our source of inspiration for today is a painting by the French artist Paul Cézanne. The painting is titled Still Life with Apples and a Potted Primrose, dated 1890. Paul Cézanne was born in 1839 and started painting in 1860, focusing on landscapes, scenes of leisure and labor, and eventually still lives. He has been called by many the master of still life, and you can kind of see why. His still life paintings, he created captivating compositions with simple inanimate objects, focusing on their shapes, the gradual tonal shifts with color, and by using directional brushstrokes of paint to really define the relationship of objects and space in his work. His attention to these details transformed these everyday objects into dynamic, compelling works of art. In this specific colorful painting, we see a wooden table in the foreground, in the bottom half, and in the background, in the top half, is a blank turquoise wall. The table surface is covered with a simple white tablecloth that is allowing just the corners of the wooden table to be exposed. The plain cloth is not laid flat, but is actually kind of scrunched and folded, allowing for pockets for the apples to exist in pairs and trios across the scope of the table, kind of meandering from the left-hand side to the right-hand side, finishing with the edge of the potted primrose on the top right-hand side of the table. The plant has wide dark green leaves that are kind of folded in onto the small pink florets that are right above the pot. Cézanne defines the composition by all the different shapes that exist in the painting. Some apples are more round, spherical shapes, and some are more oval. The cloth and the table, for example, have hard edges and are more angular geometry that complement the soft roundness of the apples, but also the asymmetry of the plant leaves and flowers. Cézanne captures what the eye sees and translates it into simple forms that the viewer can imagine in a unique reality. These compositional inventions create a drama for your eye to navigate from one corner of the picture to the other. And we will be considering drama when we add it to our own personal adaptations as we go along. First, let's gather our materials. Then we are going to set it up and further lighting if necessary. And our final step is to photograph or draw it. The still life you will make today will be specific to you and what is available. Feel free to be playful in the selection of your objects. You can choose a wide variety of shapes, colors, sizes, and textures, or you can be much more simplistic and just use only a select few items, similar to what Cézanne did for his setup. I'm personally choosing a few items that I feel are kind of a marker as to my mind space at this current time and place, and I'll kind of explain to you why. It can be very simple. I'm just thinking about food that I have lying around the house. I'm using this sweet potato that has a nice irregular shape and it's got some really beautiful texture. I also have these Scotch bonnet peppers. They add a beautiful pop of color. They're nice and shiny skinned, and they also have this really nice irregular shape that they're going to reflect the light really well. I'm also including some books that I have lying around the house that I've been reading over the past few weeks, some knickknacks that I found while rummaging for more things to draw. I also have a couple of treasures in my recycling, including this really nice looking wine bottle. I bet you probably also have some nice looking materials in your recycling that you could draw from. And last but not least, I have a potted plant as a little nod to the potted primrose in Cézanne's piece. But you can use any fruits, vegetables, baked goods, pantry items, utensils, any everyday object that's meaningful to you or that you just like the look of. The key is to make sure that it's something that you can leave in your setup for a significant period of time. That period of time can be one day, it can be 1 hour, or it can be up to a week. Cézanne has actually been noted of saying that he doesn't enjoy doing still lifes with cut flowers as they start to decay too fast for him to capture the essence of their beauty. Now, as you start to think about the items that you want in your still life, make sure to identify a good place where you'd like to put it. I suggest a corner that will go undisturbed for the significant period of time that you'll be working. You are more than welcome to put it near somewhere that has natural light, and that natural light can be your source of light for your setup. Or you don't need to put it near a window, you can put it anywhere in your house, and you can control the light and actually emphasize the more drama with using something much more direct, like a table lamp, a desk lamp, a floor lamp, or something like a clamp light. This is just a way to emphasize the contrast of objects across your still life. So we can look back to Cézanne's piece, and if you notice the white tablecloth in Cézanne's painting, pay attention to kind of the irregularity in the folded, bunched fabric and haphazard placement of the apples. It doesn't feel necessarily totally random, it feels more poetic and almost curated. This unique organization of these objects creates a real kind of drama. For your still life, you can always play with organizing the items in a way that seems unusual to you or symbolic. For example, you can place your sweet potato or let's say like a roll of toilet paper in the potted plant. Or if you're working on a lot of board games, instead of doing the board games laying flat, you can have them standing up so you can kind of trace all the different patterns and colors in the various scenes on your board game. So all these associations you can use to create a deeper symbolic meaning, or if you're interested, you can create your setup so it's just recognizing objects that you like to draw or that you like to see or think are visually stimulating. So now that you have each item kind of playing a part in this grander scene, you got each one right where you want it, you now want to start to think about the lighting. Now the lighting can play as much as a part as an object can. It can create a really dramatic source of shadow, or if you want something more natural, the objects can really just shine through as being just simple shapes, or can be referencing much more just a simple everyday scene. As long as the objects are well defined by light, you'll have something interesting to capture. So now that we have our setup and our lighting set, just an example, this is our clamp light that I'll be using. But again, you can use a floor lamp, you can use a table lamp or desk lamp, you could even use a flashlight if that's what you have available. But once you have everything set up, it's time to work. Now is a great time to take a picture of your setup so that you can work from it later. You can use the photograph also just as your work of art. And you can take multiple photographs, especially if you're using natural light. You can take your photograph of the work of your setup over the course of a period of day and do 3 different still lifes using 3 different kinds of light to define it. I personally want to practice my sketching, but you're more than welcome to stop here. And if you don't take this exercise any further and just took a few pictures, we just want to let you know that you're going to be joining a long tradition of still life photographs over the course of history. So today I'll be using a variety of materials that I have at my house, and I'll give you some substitutions if you'd like to use something else. Today I'll be using a 2H pencil. H stands for hard, which means that the graphite in the pencil is actually quite hard and makes very light marks as you move it across your page. I really like these for making underdrawings. The second pencil I'll be using is a extra black, or also known as ebony pencil. It is the softest pencil you can get. It's probably equivalent to a 6 or 8B. and the marks it makes are going to be much darker compared to the H pencil, and they smudge really easily, so you can get some nice tonal variations using a ebony pencil versus an H pencil. I'm just gonna erase these really quick. And then last, for the color implementation, and this is totally up to you, I'm actually using chalk pastels just because I have them in the house. They're easily available, and it's just gonna be a fun way to add some pops of color. Feel free though to use anything that you have lying around your home if you'd like to add some color. You can use crayons or colored pencils, that would be perfect. You can also use watercolor or markers. Or if you have old magazines, you can even make a collage or just do a quick sketch with a regular number 2 pencil. Don't be afraid to capture the very personal nature of a still life with your own style, materials, and touch. The idea is to experiment and have fun with it. And as I've said before, it's always important to try and have multiple sheets just so you can experiment with multiple ways of approaching your still life. So for my still life, I want to make sure to just try and capture the general shapes, lights and shadows, and abstract forms, similar to how Cézanne created his still life. He was known for his post-impressionism style, which borrowed a lot of techniques from the Impressionists, such as application of paint and materials, and trying to really impress upon a notion of time and place. But with the post-impressionists, they were much more focused on the subject, or expressing the subject in their work, and using it as a form of symbolism. So I have a feeling that a lot of our still lifes will reflect how we are currently thinking and living. For example, my still life is going to reflect what I'm currently reading, what I'm thinking about eating, or at least eating this week, what I've been drinking, and on top of that, things that I've been a little bit nostalgic for. If you are following along with the drawing materials, I can give you just a few step instructions to get you started. So first, I use my pencil. I'm going to be holding it at the very end, and that is so I can make long, controlled marks to really just sketch out the composition of my still life. If I wanted to get more detailed, I would hold it closer to the tip of my pencil, and that is so that I have more control to really get the really nitty-gritty details. But what I would like to do is to get just the broad general marks, work large, and then go small. So I'm going to start on the right-hand side, and that's partially because I'm left-handed. Sometimes if I drag my hand this way, I'll smudge my pencil from here to here. So if I work from the right-hand side to the left-hand side, I'll probably have less of an opportunity to smudge, but no matter what, I'll probably get a little messy. So my idea is just to get the kind of general shape of the composition for my still life. I'm doing the edge of the table at the bottom just to give myself a pointer as to where everything is going to be situated in space. I'm going to also just loosely sketch out the parts of the back of the table that I can see visible. A lot of it is obscured because we have a cloth on part of it, and because some of our still life objects are actually blocking it. I'm going to put in the markers for the 3 books that I have in my still life. For these straight edges, it would be so nice if I had a macaroni box so I could actually make some straighter lines than with just my free hand. But again, I'm not looking for perfection. I'm just merely looking to just find shapes. And of course, at first it looks really abstract, and that's totally fine because as we move along, it'll get a little less abstract and make a little more sense. So now I'm working on the sweet potato and the Scotch bonnet peppers, and I'm just loosely sketching them in. As you can see so far, what I've been sketching in, my composition is looking pretty small compared to the size of the paper, But that's just my artistic choice. I think because there's so much dramatic shadow in the background that I'd also like to capture, it's acting as much a part of my still life as the objects themselves. So now I'm going to go to this sculptural sail and just, again, loosely draw it in. What's nice is that each object kind of connects to the other one, so you can use them to kind of guide yourself from one side of the page to the other. Now, I'm already working towards the middle of my drawing, and I'm just telling you how I was trying to start right. So again, anytime you're working on a composition, you want to make sure that you're kind of working the page evenly. And this is so that, again, you don't get lost in specific details that you're ignoring the rest of the page. And so I'm creating the bottle right now just so that I can pay attention to the other side. And because the bottle is so obscuring just a portion of the pot, I will go directly into the pot because they're practically connected at this point. Also, I have this conch shell in the background that's nestled in my pot. A very unique compositional choice on my part. I've got that going. And then I have this sweet little branch that's just nestling out of the pot and then connecting the rest of these leaves to the potted plant that are existing over here in this part of the picture frame. So again, I'm just making loose marks, I'm using my eye to see, and I'm not necessarily using my hand or looking at my hand as it's creating. And the last thing I'm gonna sneak in here is this kind of abstracted cloth that I've added into my still life. And there's a nice fold right here. It's got some interesting textural marks because it's got a waffle grid texture to it. And I'm trying to add, but it's okay if I don't add it all. And again, I'm doing a little bit more looking at my still life than I'm looking at my object, or at my drawing. I'm looking at the objects more than I'm looking at my drawing. And now that I think I've gotten a lot of the objects in, I feel like I'm starting to get into a little bit further detail. I'm going to switch to my ebony pencil. So this ebony pencil, I can really start to get into some of these darker marks, things that are in shadow. And what's nice about this too is I can use my hand to blend as I see fit too. And I like to put in my darkest darks and then work towards my lightest lights. But you can also approach this in any way that feels more comfortable for you. Now, another few detail things that I can advise you with as you're going through in your still life drawing is that when you're adding color, you want to make sure that you work on the background first. And in addition to that, when you're working on adding color, things that are in shadow are oftentimes cooler, so you want to maybe thinking about using blues and purples for things that are in shadow. And then if you're working in things that are being hit by light, they'll likely have more warmer tones. So currently, because majority of the background is in shadow, I'm going to use this really nice dark blue to describe some of these. And this, similar to the ebony pencil, you want to make sure that you blend. And there are definitely different ways to approach it, at least with chalk pastel. But if you're using another material, you might not have the same blending capacity as you would with the chalk. So quickly just so those are the shadows of the objects in my still life. And then I'm just going to slowly put in a little pop of color here and there. And again, chalk pastels are super soft, so you're going to end up getting and you can really just take it from here. And you want to make sure to describe the shadows and shapes too. Oops. So you can see how these objects exist in space a little bit more easily. And I'm filling in with some vine charcoal to get some of these further details and to also describe some of these shadows. So this is just a rough start on how you can start to work on your still life. It's not finished, but my work here shows how the complexity of a still life can really inform your approach of how you build your subjects, and how being interested in developing shape, color, and tones can really add to the details and the aspect of reality into your work. I hope that these tools have helped you to inspire you to create your own still life that represents you in this moment that you feel able to share through pictures with family and friends. Be sure to post your still life drawing, painting, photo, sketch, or collage to social media with the hashtag #MetSketch. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you back here in 2 weeks for another virtual drop-in drawing.